Remember, Anderson, back 15, 20 years ago, we talked about this in San Francisco. It was all about, well, you know, gay bathhouses. And it's all about round-the-clock sex. It's all, come on, man.
Things are going to start happening to me now.
I think Tyler is amazing.
And I'm a fan of this show. I've watched several episodes.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Tyler. You stink, Tyler.
Never promise crazy a baby.
Oh, I like that. That's a cool idea.
Are either of you homosexuals?
I go both ways. What do you think?
You mean like flaming or?
No, we're not homosexual, but we are willing to learn.
But I do wonder, for others, in other cases, whether libertarianism today is just an excuse for many on the right to act selfishly.
Look at me. And then some fat asses in Washington started having opinions. The Olympic Committee started having opinions. You bitch, I know you. You started writing your opinions.
And it just makes me wonder, you're dead, bitch. You know, why are you doing this to this poor guy?
I don't care. I'm a libertarian. What I'm getting is...
Did you vote for Joe Jorgensen or Trump?
Who?
Joe Jorgensen. That was the perfect answer. Thank you.
Are we live? Here we are. Are we there? Who's with me? The music stopped and everything's gonna crap down here. So I think we're doing okay. Welcome everybody. This is Tyler Yonke, LPR, coming to you on my holiday. Let's see. Let's check the chat here. Gay bathhouses around the sex around the clock. You know what we're gonna do? We're also going to show this on the stream here. Make sure if you can hear me, let me know. If you can't, let me know, because I think everything should be coming through on my side. Here's what we got. We got the random mic I have to hold, so not a big fan of that. But I just thought we'd check in. So I'm supposed to have a trial coming up this yesterday and today, and we settled it. I think I talked about that a little bit. It's been a busy time. So I ended up coming down to Morro Bay. It's in San Luis Obispo, just north of that. And we came around here. My wife was already planning on coming down here doing some house sitting for her sister. So I decided to show up as well. And I was doing a little work from here. So I thought we would just do a schizo show for today, which is kind of showing some random stuff that I have going on here. Patrick Shouts is over here in the Rumble chat, which isn't being pushed across to I'm using a different program. I can't use my OBS. So I'm using Restream, and look, we'll try to get tricky in here. We have the other camera. We'll go this side camera. Coming back here on this side. Okay. I think this is how we're gonna do it. But with that in mind, I thought we'd walk through a few things. So like I said, we have the Rumble chat going on here. I don't think I'm gonna be able to display that. That's okay. Patrick's over there. He says LFG. Yeah. Well, welcome everybody. Drinking some of the worst stuff you could do, Michelob Ultra, but it's like water. So we're just going to keep doing that. Okay. I'm going to walk through a few things. There's some things that have grabbed my attention, and I'm not get feedback here on myself. Things that grab my attention. Side camera is better. You say side camera is better. Okay. Let's go there. Okay. That's with the iPhone, and you like the side camera better. Okay, I don't like either camera, to tell you the truth, on this. But here's what I want to play a few things here, some clips and stuff. Misinformation that's been going on, and we'll start here with this chick. This was Max Blumenthal. He goes on Piers Morgan, and there's this Emily Austin. It's all the Zionists over there, and this is I think it's important. We could all make mistakes, but little mistakes, when they're so easily out in the news and they're able to be retracted, you can retract things. So when you say things like this is what's disturbing. Let's take a listen.
Of Charlie Kirk's assassination and the rise of the woke right, with people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson creating chaos online, even with things like Tyler Robinson saying that he wasn't the assassin when he's confessed to it, trying to get him.
Hang on. Okay, for some reason that camera is going out. So what was important about? There we go. the camera stuff that I have going on with my OBS that I do, for some reason, look at this other camera. It's blurred. It's not connecting quite right. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that. You're the more handsome on this side. Okay. Oh, I think she came back. Camera came back. I'm beloved again. There we go. There. I don't know why it's coming in and out. So what was interesting about that little clip that I played there, which is, by the way, it devolved into, and I'm not a fan of this, which is, one, she goes on and she's telling Max Blumenthal that he's Qatari funded. Okay, we're going to get into the Qatari funded stuff because I find that fascinating, okay? And everyone takes it as like, you're Iran funded, you're Qatari funded, and then he's like, oh, you're Israeli funded, and she's like, no, I'm not, and that's a lie. And it's like, well, okay, there's a lot of proof going on there. About lying and shit. I think that camera's gonna blank out. Let's just go here until we're good to go. So there, and by the way, this is my Mac camera right here, and then the other camera is my iPhone that connects up to it, which usually does it just fine, but for some reason it's got a little issue. So talking about the funding stuff, and they go back and forth, it doesn't help the situation. So I wasn't thrilled that Max goes down that route, and because if you're a reporter and you're going to call someone up for lying, make sure that you have that info that you know is for sure. Now, with that in mind, we all just bloviate and say some things that aren't necessarily true. But I thought this was an interesting thing here by Michael Savage. Let's go here. Michael Savage doesn't want to get too loud, but let me know how the volume is. Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Savage Nation, this is an important correction regarding statements that I made about Tucker Carlson. It's very important that you hear me. I mistakenly thought Tucker had taken the position that Israel was in some way tied to Kirk's assassination. I was wrong. Tucker has always been very truthful with me, and I should have phoned him and asked him what his actual position was before my broadcast. I was wrong. And today, Tucker made this statement, which is very important that you hear. He said this: I never said this, I'm quoting Tucker Carlson to me, where he was offended by what I said, implied, I guess. He said, and this is Tucker Carlson now, he said, I never said I thought Israel killed Charlie. Not a single time, because I don't think that. That's Tucker Carlson to me. He said, how could you claim I? So I'm saying to you right now, everybody hear me now. I was wrong. I read you his text. Everybody hear me right now. Tucker has always been direct and honest with me. And I want to thank Tucker for reaching out to me. And I sincerely apologize to him for what was said. I'd like to put this behind us and resume our cordial relationship. Good night, and God bless America.
Okay, so now I have some issues with our buddy over here, Mr. Michael Savage. I think his actual name is Michael Wiener. No joke. And his son, I think, is the one that created Monster Drink. Okay, so there's he's got some monster money. I think there's a Jewish issue on there. I appreciate that, but I do think that for mostly he's coming out. He's more pro-American, and there's some Jewish shit that's going on there, or some Zionism stuff. I don't know. I don't even really know that because I haven't been listening to him for years. But I appreciate those kind of comments coming from corrections. And this is what we try to do here, which is original sources. Okay, so this chick goes on here, and part of the problem that I have with her and what she said, this Emily. Let's just play this clip one more time here.
Make of Charlie Kirk's assassination and the rise of the woke right, with people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson creating chaos online, even with things like Tyler Robinson saying that he wasn't the assassin when he's confessed to it.
Okay, who caught the mistake there? It's even the FBI has said, oh, at one point the family said it was, but then it's like, no, he's not cooperating. I don't know. I do not take as verbatim that or as gospel honest truth that Tyler Robinson has ever confessed to this thing. Now, maybe he has in private, but you would think if he had confessed, there would be that would have been in the indictment, and I don't believe it is. So once again, there's things that are said out there, and we went through this with PBD and it's this horrible guy Adam on Slosnick or whatever his name is on the Patrick Bet David podcast, where they're just saying things that aren't true about all kinds of people. I'm not here to defend Candace. I'm here because I'm more concerned about. Well, I'm here because I do a podcast every week, and as the French handicap says here. Your wife hacked your side cameras, so no one can steal you. She's probably okay. It's wonderful. And I was almost thinking, I was like, because I have my two daughters here with us. One flew up from San Diego, and the other one just drove down with us. And I was actually thinking I might bringing them in here and talking to them, but I don't have enough mics and all that shit about TikTok as an example, because they're both on TikTok and they've been there with the China phase and now it's the Jewish phase that's taken it over. And I was just curious of their take on it. And you know what? I honestly thought, and I've thought about this too, which is there's a lot of scare tactics to go into the the Chinese ownership, right? And now there's a different foreign country, and everyone's like, "Oh, thank God!" It's like, by the way, I'm doing a podcast. I'm setting this up, and I'm going to do. I don't know if it's a series, but I'm going to do an in-depth thing about treason. Okay, and I'm going back to the 1930s, 1940s, and I've talked about this before. I'm just giving you a heads up. Alger Hiss, Whittaker Chambers. The Hollywood Party, the communists infiltrated that. You've got, what's his name with the Wheeling? I remembered it now. Wheeling, West Virginia. I think that's where it is. His speech there. McCarthy talking about that, and how we were so concerned, and then what the driving force was for the communist spies at the time, what they were actually trying to do, and then when you just and the concern that we have with that, we have it with. Clinton gets elected, and part of that there's some issues with this Chinese temple and his running mate. Oh, geez, I'm losing my mind on who these people are. Come on, the really climate change guy. Oh my God, I'm losing my head here. But anyway, there's all kinds of concern, even the Russiagate stuff, right? Because very concerned about foreign influence. And then you have the stuff that's going on now. Well, this Emily chick, she's like in a meeting with Netanyahu, and the way that it's mind-boggling at best. French ANCAP says they find another devil wearing a cute woman's skin suits. Yeah. So and then over here on Rumble, Patrick Shaw says Candace Owens has never gotten anything wrong, never once. Now that's just that's a women talking, right? I saw Nate Bargatze come across one of my feeds the other day when I was scrolling, doing doom scrolling, and he's talking about he goes, my wife, she says, I've never once listened to her, and he's like, I mean, I always hear that part. He goes, it's some of the other stuff that you don't. He's like, but it does seem odd that like I don't know how long they've been married, 15, 20 years or whatever it is. He's like that she would be batting 1,000. Like I've never once listened, never once. I mean, that doesn't seem possible. But that's oftentimes the female perspective, which is that, you never listen to anything they say. Okay. Or that the door is right. So I get it here. And once again, I'm not defending Candace and these people. What I want to do, and I do think I like this about Candace for the most part, which is she's calling out and she has receipts for, quotes and whatnot that you play. That's the way you go about it. And then are you misinterpreting those quotes, or you giving them short shrift, or are you using them incorrect and not out of context? That is also an important thing to be had as well. Okay, so what I wanted to look at here, let's play a few other items here, because now we've got this ADL stuff that's coming out. Although what I wanted to look at, let's take a look at this one maybe. Our boy Mark Vestibule tagged me and said, "Hey, what do you?" I don't know what he said. He just said Tyler Yonke. So let's take a look here at this post. There it goes. So this person said, I just divorced my husband, and it turns out that the houses and cars he bought were put in his mom's name. I didn't know. And he just resigned at his job. My attorney no longer wants to take my case. Says we're hardly going to get anything. What do? I feel like I wasted my time. Okay. I hope you all heard that, even though I was showing the sharing the screen there. Okay, so let's talk about that real quick, which is going through. So the stand, and it's just I'll just answer this question here about how this works. First of all, things like this happen all the time. People try to hide stuff, and you can. It's very difficult to do, particularly in California. The community property is date of marriage to the date of separation. So anything acquired during that time is community property. Then there's always exceptions to that. It's inheritance. Anyway, you have got divine bequests, gift, inheritance, those kind of things. Those would be some exceptions. Even then, though, if you commingle it with your other accounts, now you've got problems. You have to do what's called tracing. And with that in mind, you can still be considered community property, even though maybe your mom died and passed you on your money. So this guy, there's a title presumption in most states as well, which is however things are titled, who's on title. So this case would be his mom. If his mom's on title, then that's what you presume to be the property. But that can be overcome. Often happens. Parties get married. They buy a house. Maybe one has bad credit for some reason. They don't put the other party on the title, and it's just one party. Well, it's bought during the marriage, so that's still community property, and so it's not going to be a problem. Here's what you do on the case like this, because we've had situations like this. What you do is you end up joining in the other party. I had a case. We won this not too long ago. Husband and wife, they're married. Now, these were all Hmong, Vietnamese, those kind of, so, Southeast Asia, I think that's what it would be. And there's a strong familial tie, and they take in their parents, they all kind of live there, and they take care of each other. That was perfectly fine, but it came back to haunt them in this case, because what they ended up doing was the parents had a house. They'd had it for quite some time from the 90s. They only had like $40,000 left on the mortgage. They then the parents were getting old. They had the one daughter on title, and then they decided their health was getting bad. So the son, who's married, and decides, hey, my wife and I will put us on title. We'll take the title over, and then we'll pay off this remaining mortgage, and you just stay there and live. Perfectly fine. Until 2 months later, they get divorced. The husband and wife are getting divorced, and now this house, the wife is like, hey, this is community property. You keep that house, and I'll keep the other one. And he's like, well, wait, then my parents, so what happened? We ended up being joined into the case. I represented the grandparents or the parents, and we got joined in the case, and we had to end up resolving it. Now, joinder for a third party in a marriage is not easy. You've got to, there's multiple aspects. Only a judgment can't withstand, but for having these parties in there, they're in control of some sort of aspects of the property. And it's not easy to get joined in, and we got joined in. And matter of fact, I just had this last week an issue with joinder that I won about keeping someone out. So it's not easy to do, but it can be done. And this is a completely obvious situation. You just track title, how it was. Oh, he transferred title during the marriage. Okay, that's easy. We'll join mom in now. That car and whatever. This person over here, where's the? How do I bring this back in? Stop screen sharing. Let's go back to screen sharing. Okay, so let's bring this back in here. This one. Okay, so I just divorced my husband. It turns out that the houses and cars he bought were put in his mom's name. Once again, that's real easy to do. I don't know who this attorney is. Did you waste your time? I don't know. That seems like to me you need a little bit more explanation. We get these situations quite often, which is where someone's making a claim like this, and maybe those houses and cars were bought before you got married, and they were never in his name. Well, because they wouldn't be part of your thing, your case anyway. So I don't know what the situation is. However, there you go. So Mark Vestibule, I hope I answered your question there. Oh my God, we've got JC in the chat. Nevsky's in the chat. All right, good stuff here. Okay, so there you go. I think we answered that question just quite fine. Now, I have a few more situations. I mean, there's a bunch of good stuff here. Let's take a look at this here of the quartering, this comment that he had, because I want to take a look a little bit closer. Let me see here. We'll do our old skills here of enlarging this. Get rid of those chats so you don't need to see all my naughty chats. Great names that we have there. Okay. Here's a quoting. He says, "Here we are just 2 weeks later, and nobody is talking about the radical leftists who assassinated Charlie Kirk. If I didn't know better, I would say this was maybe the best disinformation campaign in history. Bee cults, trapdoors, harassing his friends. Sure takes the pressure off." Okay, here's the problem you have with what I would have with this, which is how many of these things are factual from the Quartering's perspective. Is he a radical leftist? Is this the actual person? That is part of the problem. No one's taking pressure off of this, but he's just taking hook, line, and sinker. And by the way, we read through the indictment, and I told you we've got to wait and see what comes about with these things. There's a phone. There's new stuff coming out. Evidently, his phone was pinging at a restaurant not too far away. So the FBI reached out. There's footage of him, driving, just 20 minutes later around this place. I don't know the whole aspect. My mind's wide open to this because, innocent until proven guilty. And by the way, radical leftist. Okay. So you got a radical leftist out there. What, do you want me to be surprised? There's a bunch of weirdos out there. Yeah. So I don't have any trouble going through some of these things. Is what gets me. And I did see this one where someone's like, and it's for sure this was shot from behind, and I'm like, grainy video. I mean, let's get a little bit more positive. And by the way, like I said, I don't know what the situation is. I think Candace is opening a world of hurt and opening the worms are coming out here. JC's also over in the Rumble chat. Once again, the Rumble chat's not being displayed here. I don't have OBS. I'm not able to do that, but I appreciate you over in there. I appreciate you over on YouTube, JC. I appreciate you on Twitter. If you're over there, we're in all these places. And once again, you get a membership here on Substack, and we will be coming to you with that as well. Anyway, so there's a lot left out there, and this is why you see. And once again, when this whole thing went down, and I had my blow up, and who got the crosshairs? It was our boy Jose, who I love, and has not responded to me. I just throwing that out there. Some of it is like I want to have more positive info before I just go off half cocked. Okay, full cocked is one thing, half cocked is another. Okay, so you always got to be concerned about this. Fred Dancap says, so buy stuff before getting married. Yes, buy stuff before getting. Rumble is banned in France. Interesting, because that is I didn't know it was banned in France, but we can do what's chill W cat. I don't know what that's going on there. You can do Substack, and we'll be maybe that's the probably not there. But anyway, I appreciate all you. So the where we're at right now, there was questions about they were asking me legal questions. My brother-in-law. Well, they're not here right now. The other day, and let's say about dogs. The example was their daughter and her boyfriend, they have a dog, and so let's say they were to break up, who gets the dog? And they're like, and they're like, she can't leave because that's the dog. And I'm like, okay, well, let's back everything up. It's easy on these things. You have to unroll them and start out from the base position. This is what you do with libertarianism too, right? I told you that's a legal, in my view, that's a legal perspective, a legal theory at least. And it's the same idea. Let's back this up. Okay. They're just roommates. Who cares if they have it? Because nothing in the law says, except for, specific things like restraining orders and whatnot. But just because you're dating, there's nothing is really given to you. Matter of fact, there's called Marvin laws, which is Lee Marvin. I don't know if you remember him, famous actor. He was married. He wasn't married. He was dating this chick, and basically, she took him to court to get spousal support and all this stuff, and they're not married. So it's like, hey, you can go to civil court. Basically, is the idea there. You don't have special arrangements just because you're dating. So sorry if you don't get married. Do the right thing. That's kind of the situation. So here it is. You have a dog. I just separate it and say to people when they ask me these kind of questions, well, they're not married and we have this and this. I'm like, okay, you're just living together. It's you and another dude, or you and another girl, and you're not dating. You're just a roommate. You put an ad in the paper, single white female. They come in there. Now they're in there, and you have a dog, and the dog is registered in this case to the girl, and he likes the dog. It's their dog. Okay. But it's property. It's literally chattel, as I would call it. And so if you're getting and you're breaking up, and now you're saying who gets the dog, you could do some sort of like custody arrangement. But the reality is this is property, and who is it titled to? It's titled to her. It's just like she has a car and they're dating. He doesn't get to have visitation with the car. Okay. And now, by the way, we do have this with family law. If you're married and your dog and it's joint title, okay, maybe then, but that's not what you're talking about here. So you just unravel things and you say, oh, this is just two parties happen to be living together. And you know what? And they're like, they're not, he's got a good job. He's an attorney, and they're making her pay rent. And I'm like, how about you don't move in until you're married? Let's make them do the right thing. Anyway, so there's different things you could do there with that. All right. So my point with the quartering is simply about the fact of, you're pulling a bunch of facts out here yourself. Radical leftist. I don't know. Is he? I mean, you're just believing all this kind of horse shit that you haven't seen. It's literally an indictment with just, quote unquote text messages. It's not screenshots. There's no verification, no authentication. It's really, really poor. And so, you're not going to really get much from me on that way. Okay. So there's the quartering. And I had something else I wanted to go about that went in line with this. Maybe it's okay. It must be this one. So let's take a look here. This is this chick. She was, and by the way, Candace Owens, I enjoy watching. There's a few things. One is the quartering, and I think some others there. They're like, oh, now she's making threats to the Turning Point. Let me talk about that real quick. So, Turning Point USA. I don't know if you heard about this, which is where Candace had said to them, "You need to do the right thing, or tell me, or tell people I am lying." And they're like, "This makes no sense." Well, basically, she's talking about the Zionism stuff and the letter from Charlie Kirk to Netanyahu and how he were being treated and da 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 da. I believe what she's doing there, let's assume that she has communication that she can show between her and Charlie. She hasn't shown anything really in that regard. This is what I would be doing if I was her, and because I do this all the time in family court, which is you send a letter, or in this case, you make a declaration, you comment, and you give the party the two things to do. One is to do the right thing, or you're setting them up to screw them over. Okay. So oftentimes I'll like, hey, here, other party, they're not doing visitation right, or whatever it is. They're, kind of not following the court order, and you send them a letter and you go, hey, here's what the court order says, X, Y, and Z, maybe turn the kids over at this time of day, and you're not doing this. So please, follow along and do this. One, now you can show the court, I've tried to give them notice. I tried to have them do the right thing. And if they do the right thing, then problem solved, right? We're all adults and we just move on. If they don't, now you show the court, look, I told them, they were aware of it. They knew about this. Matter of fact, if you're going to file a contempt order or a request for contempt, oftentimes you go into court. This is for everything. You can do motions to do all kinds of stuff, modify custody and or even it's just civil court. But if you want to do something and you want to have them, just partial civil and penalties are applied to a contempt. And if you're going to be filing a contempt, one thing you have to do is, one, the party, there was an order in place. Okay. So you show, here's the order. Two, the party was aware of this order. And typically that then is a declaration of some sort saying, here's when the order was given. This party was in court at the time, or sometimes I just will mail them and I'm not under any obligation to do this. It's just CYA. I'm or mailing them and making sure that they have or emailing that they have the order in place. Now, one, there's an order. Two, did they know about the order? Okay, they were aware of it. That's exactly what we're doing here. And I think that's what she's doing here with the tweets and whatnot, telling Turning Point, hey, why don't you deny me outright? Because then she's probably going to be showing the receipts, which I'm all for. So I'm loving this kind of stuff. Okay, so let's go into Tyler Robinson. This is another this lady, anyway. Oh, I know what I was saying. So Candace Owens, she played a clip of this lady I'm going to show right here. Her name is Elizabeth Lane. She's been doing like some independent reporting. But Candace Owens also referenced the ADL. There's a big thing with the ADL right now about the FBI. Now, if you actually have looked into the ADL, which I have done, look back at my episode with Nephilim Death Squad. I'm going to release that out as my own episode. I've done three with Pete Quinones, one other one solo. I was on Jose's show doing it. I was on Alan Mosley's show doing it. I've talked about this stuff with the Leo Frank stuff, and the ADL is right in the midst of this. If you know anything about the ADL, and I hadn't really even talked about this, there was a scandal multiple years ago about the ADL and the FBI, okay? Informants and on all kinds of lines, some spine shit that went on. Well, now the FBI comes out again and is like, hey, we're not going to work with them. And I'm like, wait, there was and maybe I'll have to pull the receipts on this one, but there was a scandal a while ago about the FBI. Why are you still thinking that the ADL is at all an important thing? However, as Candace is talking about this, she brings up the point of Mary Fagan Keene, who's the great grandniece to Mary Fagan, the girl that was killed by Leo Frank. And she brought up her book and stuff. Now that lady and I, she's coming on the show. I think it's 28th, so it's a few weeks, or 24th, one of those. We'll send out a notice here. She's going to come on the show and talk to us. And so that's going to be some good, more Leo Frank stuff, some ADL stuff, and some stuff that's going forward. And I let her know. I'd send her a message and said, "Hey, Candace Owens just shouted you out. That was pretty fucking awesome. So good for her. We need to wait for the judgment. I don't know what you're talking about. Which judgment? And ADL is the Anti-Defamation League. Yes, Anti-Defamation, maybe. Okay. Okay. So let's play a clip here. This is Elizabeth Lane going on Owen Schroyer. Now, I'll say this. I know there's some issues with Owen Schroyer. There's some issues with Alex Jones. I didn't know anything about Owen very much because I didn't really follow along with him until he testified in the Alex Jones stuff. I've actually, I enjoy him. Once again, I played a clip of him hitting a golf tee shot. Boy can play, it looks like. So I give him some respect there. But leaving Alex Jones also, it made me respect him even more. So let's play a clip here.
I do want to ask you about Robinson. So I was sitting in court watching this guy, and he was like a total zombie. He never moved. Something about this guy just was so weird. It's almost like he gave up. It's almost like, okay, what happens to me, and I just don't care. Like, but why would that be the attitude to a vicious, angry human? That's where the narrative, is lost on me.
I don't think that narrative fits, despite the fact that he could be a killer. If you look at the timeline of events, he did turn himself in. And when he turned himself in, there were no cops present. There were plainclothes detectives, and the whole thing was basically ran through the family. I mean, if I'm being totally conspiratorial here, I wouldn't be too surprised, based off of the timeline of events that we have and the video footage that we have, that maybe he went up there to take the shot and somebody else took it before he even pulled the trigger. I can't even imagine, you're caught on the roof in a sniper's. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Shooter with Mark Wahlberg. I don't know if we're that advanced here. Where basically you're up there, you think you're going to take the shot, and then somebody else takes the shot before you pull the trigger, but you're up there sitting there with the gun. And it's like...
You mean what happened to Lee Harvey Oswald? This scenario is very, very familiar. So
what would you do? So what would you do in front of a judge, in front of a camera? I would be screaming. I'd be like, I'm innocent. I didn't do it. Right. But at the same time, if you were up there with a gun, you might have to shut your mouth. And I don't know what advice he's getting from his attorneys, but obviously, somebody's telling him to shut up, whether that's himself or attorneys. If it was me and I was innocent, I'd be making sure at least somebody heard it. I'd be making sure there's at least one clip of me saying it. But yeah, like you said, he's stoic. He's like a zombie. He seems paralyzed by the moment.
All righty. So let's get back here. So what's interesting about that, she didn't, I thought this was going to be the clip where she talks about the attorney. She reached out about someone basically helping Tyler Robinson, as legal counsel. Good. I want to make sure that the feds and the state, because this is actually going to the state court, bring as good of evidence as they possibly have so that we don't have an issue. By the way, this is the comment of the day right here. This Bjork went on the No Way Jose show. Good If you don't get that, we're just gonna put this go back up right here. uh, that is so solid, JC. Oh my God, that is. That makes me miss Tower Gang with good laughs like that. So yeah, Bjork went on. No way, Jose. But this, you fucking killed me. You killed me. Okay. He on vacation celebrating the end of Tower Gang now. I don't know what you're talking about. France will ban Rumble, but not pedos. Okay. Good point there. Okay. By the way, that just fucking killed me. Great comment, JC. She had mentioned though that she's reached out and there's a lot of people say things and then we'll have to, hopefully the news will hold the feet to the fire. And I know a lot of independent journalists are doing things. And then a lot of Zionists and other ones are just all up in arms that you would even, ask questions, which is so stupid. Because even that now sounds like it's a cover or it's a dog whistle for being anti-Semitic. But, go fuck yourself. But she was saying that basically the prosecution or this guy that's running for DA he's the one picking the attorney for Tyler Robinson, which doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, you should the defendant should be the one picking the defense attorney, even if it is public defender. So that seems to be a little bit odd to me. Okay, I had a few other dishes. We took care of Mark. Okay, let's go back to talking about funding because we played this clip right here.
Wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination and the rise of the woke right with people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson creating chaos online, even with things like Tyler Robinson saying that he wasn't the assassin when he's confessed to it, trying to get a
Okay, so she's talked about Qatari funding and whatnot, and those two go back and forth. So let's play a little bit of thing here because what's his name? Let me find... Oh man, we should probably talk about the ADL too. What's funny is, and I'll bring this up here. I want to. I'm finding something here. What's funny is I went when this whole thing with the ADL and they're mocking, Turning Point, or they're saying, Charlie Kirk and Turning Point are basically like hate groups. Last Sunday, I'm sitting on the couch watching football, and I just had my laptop, and I went to the ADL, their glossary, and I just went through every page, all their stuff. Some of it is they're just describing like something that's out there in the ether, so therefore you need to know what this means, and so they define it, but they always define it in just a little bit of a nefarious way. And Turning Point was on there, and evidently, and then by Perical Abbasi Perry, he was on Killpod with us for a while ago. He made a post about it, and that's where they said the ADL and the FBI are no longer going to be, working together and like that kind of thing. So let's see. I think Jonathan Greenblatt, we're going to play a clip here of him talking about it. Hopefully this is the one I wanted. Let's go here. Okay, here we go.
Anti-Semitism is a bit of like a virus. And like some viruses, it exists in the kind of body politic and it's dormant, like chickenpox. You get chickenpox as a young person, and then after the kind of inflammation subsides, it's still in you. And it can manifest again when you're older because of stress or age as shingles. Although you can get inoculated and you can prevent that from happening. So I think anti-Semitism is similar. It's like this contagion. It's as old as time. Right, we face it for thousands of years. First, it was after the death of Christ, there were these accusations that the Jews killed Christ, and that the Jews weren't a real religion because we didn't accept Christ, and then we didn't accept Muhammad. So you have this, the Jewish religion isn't legitimate, and that was the basis for the Crusades, which is at Tish B'Av, which remembers the expulsion. We had inquisitions. We had all these horrible things. And then, after the Age of Reason, it was, maybe, and they realized that the sun doesn't revolve around the earth and the earth isn't flat. Then it was, okay, maybe Judaism is okay as a religion.
The sun doesn't revolve around the earth because the earth is flat, but it does revolve around the Jews. So,
but it's the Jewish race that isn't legitimate. And then we saw kind of anti-Semitism metastasize into this kind of race-based form of hate, which of course exploded with the Shoah. And then after the tragedy of that, the injustice of that was exposed, people then said, well, it's not that their religion is illegitimate or their race is illegitimate. Now it's the Jewish state that's illegitimate. And we see that now in the form of anti-Zionism, which is anti-Semitism.
Okay, so I've talked about this time and time again, how their conflation of being a Jew and then the Jewish state. You can't say anything about this Jewish state because it is Jewish and everything about that. And but it's a democracy. Oh, but we have Muslims and Christians that are equal in the country. Do you? Then is it really a Jewish state? I don't think it is. So that's one aspect here. So let me go forward because I had I wanted to see about I had a post. Well, a lot of shit posting I'm doing here. Oh yeah, did you see that the Catholic priest went ahead and blessed a big thing of ice? never mock my religion when that's your that's the thing you have going on there. Okay, let's see here. This had to do with maybe I'm not gonna find it. It was Ted Cruz though talking about Israel shit and Qatari money. And so what I want to talk to you about is that, which is money and political influence. Now, when Trump first got into office, if you remember, I made the discovery, I'm sure other people had done it as well, that Pam Bondi had once had to register for FARA for working for Qatar. So, okay, is that abnormal? I don't know. I'm not a big fan of any of our politicians in America working for foreign governments, even if it's registered and they're doing it as a lobbying or whatever it is. So that happened, and people are like, okay, well, we love Trump. She's a Zionist. She loves hate speech, or she wants to prosecute it. She's all about, torturing. If you're a poor Jewish student, need a safe space Jewish student at a Harvard University, so you're so underprivileged that they want to come out and prosecute people. Yes, she's that person. But she was okay taking Qatari money. Now, there is Jewish money out there, or from Israel, I should say Israeli money that's coming, and it's a big influence in the country. So their counter is you're taking Qatari money. Now, does that make any sense to anybody? And what I mean by that is, if foreign money is bad, then it's bad from whichever place you get it. And their contention is, yeah, but you take Qatari money. It's like, perfect. Then no one take any money and we'll be good. How about no one takes money from foreign countries and we'll be good? That's really what we are trying to emphasize here. So with that in mind, let's take a look and see what Laura Loomer has said about this kind of stuff on X here. Let's go.
Why is the chief of staff for a Republican member of Congress from Michigan who now serves as a GOP caucus chair? Why are they going to Qatar? And then I started looking some more, and turns out that Lisa McLean herself went to Qatar in 2021 on a trip with Ruben Gallego, Trump-hating radical leftist senator from Arizona, and Eric Swalwell. Remember Eric Swalwell who had sex with a Chinese spy? Yeah. So you have to ask yourself, is the GOP completely compromised by Qatar? Are they basically bought out by Qatar? Why is the chief...
What's fascinating too is, okay, so either that's a good thing or it's a bad thing. Okay. How many, there's our congressmen, senators, they go over to Israel all the time. So I don't understand how this is supposed to be any kind of some sort of a defense. It's one of the dumbest things I've actually seen, because all it does is put in the crosshairs that we need to just clean up all of this stuff. Clean it all up from top to bottom, and let's figure a way to have that done. So, by the way, it's insane how disgusting she is and how disgusting she looks. Absolutely. It's not a Jewish state. It's a Zionist state. Absolutely. Qatar, I need money. And by the way, maybe we'll just pin this up here. Let's see. Put user on time. Add to block list. I'm sorry, I can't do anything with your tweet. Oh, let's star it. We'll star it, JC, because that is the best comment of the night. Sorry, folks. If you want a better comment, pay some money, and then I'll have you as the better comment. So yeah, that's Laura Loomer's situation there. That's kind of the things that she's making comments of. And then with that, you're going to have this kind of stuff, which is, let's be honest, nothing is quite as fantastic as hearing about, free speech and coming from people like this. Let's play this here.
Social media influencers making baseless claims. I worry that this could even get worse. So I think we really need tech platforms to step up and stop, lifting up these intemperate voices. We need elected officials to speak out. Unfortunately, companies like X and Meta have retreated from content moderation in recent months. We are not only talking to the companies themselves, we're talking to the regulators. I think it is time for government to step up here. These companies are, they say too big to fail. These companies are too big to just leave alone. Knock the Nazis, knock the anti-Zionists off the platform once and for all.
The simple answer, in my opinion, is social media is wildly out of control, and there's too much clickbait in this country. And one of the things I highlighted at Congress in my testimony last week was, if we want to protect our youth, we got to get more involved in social media and online platforms. Yeah, that's a scary prospect. Do you want that guy, either one of them, out there protecting your youth? I'm sorry, that's just not anything I am interested in at all. That's not the one I wanted to look at. That one I already took care of. Jake Shields, I posted that. You're like, Jake Shields, what? Yeah, okay. Last thing I want to kind of talk to you here, because look, there was that. I didn't even get to talk about that guy, the crazy kid that Turning Point or the GOP has now put out there. By the way, my face is really red. We just were out in the sun. I'm trying to give excuses for why I look this way. We're out in the sun. It's a little warm in this room right now. But anyway, so it was like this Honeydew. I'm trying to remember his name. Some really homo looking kid that's going to be, when Ben Shapiro said, "I'm picking up the bloody mic of Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to go out there on campus," you're just like, oh shit, not that. And then this kid is basically picking up, I don't know what else, the bloody shirt. He's like, he already was putting it on like immediately. And, he's in this private plane, and I'll do a podcast perhaps on him. And I thought it was disgusting. Okay. And he goes out there and he's shilling for Israel and whatnot. And you're just like, you got another one. Now, look, I've had my problems with Steven Crowder in the past. Okay. And part of it is, kind of the stuff you just like, oh, dude, you're so cringe. Well, then here he goes. So now he's like, remember, he had done the Change My Mind. It's a huge meme. Everyone, loves it and does their own version of that. And he said he had stopped going out there. I will recall he is out there actually in Utah at one point, and Antifa, there was a whole thing where he uncovered a plot, and he was kind of his Not Gay Jared was Jared Monroe. We've talked about him. We've done his stuff, his lawsuit against Steven Crowder. He was out there, and they did some undercover stuff, and they basically had a. Hang on a second. That's not good. That's not good. The microphone's twisting like that. They had some sort of plot that they had uncovered. Anyway, he was doing this. He said it was real dangerous. So now he's going to go back on campus and do some things like this. He says, when I started to change my mind, it was never meant to dunk on students. Come on, it was. It was. And I think this is disingenuous. 2020 hindsight 2020. Oh, there you go. Yes, this is the guy here, Brillin or something like that. Yes, that's there's some gay like that. Yes, that's it. I'm not a National Socialist. Okay. Why don't you say what you are, not what you not are? Okay. So, there's all the Ben Shapiro dunks on, yes. Okay, at some point you need to stop going to college campuses. At least Charlie Kirk was young and still vibrant, they kind of in that range there. He never graduated, so why not go back on campus? Meanwhile, Steven Crowder is going in there. You are going there to dunk people, but some of it was good stuff. I enjoyed some of those things, and Steven Crowder was pretty good at it. I will say this. I don't care what you think about Charlie Kirk. I think he was best at this. He was unique at this. So if you can have this Brillo pad kid get out there trying to do this, it's not going to work. And would I rather have my daughters influenced by China? What up, Jordan? Would I rather have my kids influenced by China TikTok or Israeli TikTok? Would I rather have my kids influenced by Charlie Kirk on campus, Steven Crowder on campus, or this Brillo pad kid on campus? Kirk first. Well, one, he's dead, but that Brillo kid last, and Steven Crowder. I don't know. I'm okay. That's why I'm calling for formal debates with professors. I mean, this is everybody getting on the bandwagon now, right? They see this vacuum of TPUSA. You can't. Charlie Kirk was who it was. He did everything. It was all under his auspice. He was the one getting. I mean, his TikToks and reels and whatnot were just huge. It really was him. He was this company. And so to me, I somewhat laugh to think that, who's going to take this over? You think you could just, we have this with businesses, right? I was just talking to, once again, the brother-in-law, talking about a guy that ran this consulting firm, and he passed away, and it was all going to different states with governments trying to get contracts, and he had the in. So now there's a fight over this business. This business is worth nothing without him. He was the person. He was the contact that made the contacts for these setups and whatnot. Had a have that with some businesses. My business, as an example, am I going to be able to sell it? I guess you can sell your clientele, but at some point they want me, right? They want what I have, and so there's not really much to it there. And that's what I think this was as well. So there's a vacuum now on these college campuses, and Crowder is probably seeing that he wants to get back in the mix. So he's starting to do this challenge of professors in political science and liberal arts departments in the following schools. He names them all. Let me see. UCLA, Berkeley, Stanford, USC. Okay. JUPenn. I mean, you got Harvard. I mean, come on. Why don't you go to real universities? No offense. Okay. So here is him doing a little comment about it. Let's see what he has to say, and then I'm going to show you one more thing here.
Guys, this will be probably one of the only times that I address you kind of as a mass of people, because these usually end up being individual conversations. But I wanted to take a moment just to kind of communicate something here. When we started Change My Mind, the idea was back in 2016. I think the first ones were in 2017, so nearly a decade now. SMU was one of the very first places. And actually, I believe one of the very first places was me with a sandwich board in Burlington, Vermont, in a morph suit, because it wasn't on campus initially. But the more I went on campus, the more I saw the failures of the institutions. And I want to be really clear about something. This was never designed to mock, denigrate, or dunk on students who don't know any better. It was always designed to highlight the failures of the institutions, because I was dumbfounded as to the fact when leftists would sit down that this was the first time they were hearing mainstream conservative views. So it was always about highlighting the failure.
By the way, I think what he's saying now is noble and it makes more sense. But when you went and watched that wasn't always the indication. When you watch Charlie's, he actually emphasized that at the most. And where he was able to do that and why he was able to do that best was because he himself didn't go or didn't finish college, and he, whipped everybody with this. This gets to some Rumble chat here. Patrick Schouts is out there. He says, so long as Tim Pool isn't going. Okay, I don't know. I don't know what that is to do with it. And also right here with French ANCAP says, I vote for Nick Fuentes to replace Charlie Kirk. Okay, I know you're making a joke. This is my issue, which is you can't vote for this. You can't. This is where the Brillo Pad kid comes in here, which is you're not going to withstand one. Charlie made this himself because he was him. Okay, you don't have to agree. And by the way, this is my point on this and other people. There's just certain people that just stand out, and if you're not, if it's not astroturfed, you're going to be popular because of who you are. Nick Fuentes has a following because of who he is, gay Mexican. Okay, it's just like a lot of people love that about him. He has talent, and even Tucker Carlson has talked about that when he's denigrated him and said whatnot. He's also said this kid has a ton of talent. So I think there's some of that where some of the right just hates him because he hasn't gone down their route and he's pulling influence. You can't just vote for someone to fill these shoes. And by the way, I don't know that this technique that happened here before we go on campuses is really the way to keep going about this. And having Crowder come back to it makes me feel a bit like it's a bit cringeworthy here. Okay. And I'm gonna stop sharing this. I'm not gonna play any more of that because what I want to do is this is why I think and this is how to me it becomes even the most cringe about it, which is because of this stuff. Okay, he's doing this left is violent, but then he has a whole video behind the scenes to make sure. Why do I have both of me going on here? Let's cut that one. A video behind the scenes showing about how he is putting on his vest, and like, okay, this is the cringe stuff, right? When it's like behind the scenes to show how you are kind of not like, you're preparing for this. You've got your entourage. We're going into the lion's den. We're going to talk about their violence, and then we're going to put on our safety vest. Charlie got shot in the neck, and I get it. Yeah, wear this vest out there. I would too. Gay Mexican, yes. That's what he is. Okay, so there we go. I'm not going to pay any more of that. I just think there's a lot of, some of that somewhat interesting stuff going on there. I do have a problem with the commentary and the breaking down of free speech that Kash Patel's involved. That a lot of the parties are involved. And by the way, the Tyler Robinson stuff, I'm waiting. There is so much that's coming out that's interesting, and I'm so curious if people like the quartering. If you just take the first thing that comes out and you're like, well, I've watched CSI so many times, they got their guy. And if that's actually the case, I don't know. I think something like Owen Schroyer, that's going to be something else. I mean, I really, really, really hope that this kid gets a very, very good attorney. And the reason being is not because I want him to get off. I want the government to prove beyond a reasonable doubt to us watching TV like they did with O.J. Simpson. Okay. Even though that was, that was a horrible. By the way, I've talked about this before too, which is people like, oh, the rich people, they get afford to get off. Look at O.J. Simpson. I'm like, yeah, let's look at O.J. Simpson. Do you know how much the government spent? They spent, I think it was 10 times more money, the city of Los Angeles, than what O.J. did for his amazing defense team. Tons of money. Okay, they outspent him. If he didn't have that. Wait, he was not found guilty, but that was Can we get Toad on a campus tour? Says Patrick Shouts. By the way, I reached out to Toad. I said, hey, you and I need to talk. I want to bring him on the show. This just wasn't the place to do it tonight. What would have been better? Political violence. Let's see. Sorry, it goes over here. What would have been better? Political violence is bad. Changed my mind. And by the way, I'm somewhat sick of the idea too there, because for the most part, we have a lacking of political violence. Now, I will say this: I don't know if it's political violence or a racial issue, but when you have Black Lives Matter and you destroy cities, is that the left destroying cities? Is that a racial group destroying cities? Is that a Venn diagram of a racial group that's on the left destroying cities? I don't know. Would love to see Toad on the show. Yeah, Toad's going to come on the show. I'm going to have him on here soon. By the way, I just need to give him a call and talk as buddies, because he is one of mine. And I feel bad about, how life is going. I think he's still unemployed. And how am I going to I can't help but I have to make jokes about Toad. And then he's going to come on the show and I'm going to feel like, by the way, the other night, I'm a New York Yankees fan. Yankees beat the Boston Red Sox. I dipped into the Better Off Dead group chat and it said Toad left, so he had already rage quit, and I was like, oh, that's about to be expected. What else we got here? Barry Weiss is the new head of CBS, and she doesn't know. You've just got so many. I don't know what to say here, people. I'm so disappointed in our government. I'm so disappointed in some of our people, the strong Zionist views. Like I said, I'm going to be getting things together. I'm going to try to do an in-depth little bit of a commentary here about what treason really means, what it means to be in affiliation of another government, and because there's some interesting things that I was reading here about the people that were involved in this, in the communist, Cold War. But they were, Alger Hiss, Whitaker Chambers, all those people, and what their mentality was at the time for doing what they were doing, right? By the way, we kind of commentary about this because we watched the documentary Defamation, where those people were Jews over there looking at the Holocaust stuff, and they're like, oh, we're not religious Jews. So this whole identity about Israel and that's our new religion type of thing. You're like, oh, I get it. That's just like the left, where they are, all indoctrinated into their politics, and that's their new religion. I would love to watch his show, but I don't give a shit about sports or gambling. That is the proper response, by the way. You said everything that needs to be said about that. and you said it correctly. Okay, everybody, I am out of here. This is about all I had to do. We're gonna go to a happy hour here real quickly. I'm gonna go hang out with my daughters and my wife, and we'll be up there next week. Wednesday show, I've got some legal stuff I'm gonna go over. We've got Comey was indicted. The important part about it, I got a few minutes here. We're right at an hour, and we'll real quickly about Comey. The importance of Comey, and I think it is important, is that when you go and testify before Congress, we need to shut this shit down. Okay, look, senators get up there all the time, and they have immunity. They have from defamation to just say whatever the fuck they want, and they do say whatever they want all the time. Okay, regular people testifying, you shouldn't have Brennan, was that the guy of the NSA, went up there and lied about stuff. You got Comey lying before Congress. Fine. I'm all for prosecuting them on that. And if you think that is somehow lawfare, that's not. Lawfare is other things which I've talked about before, which is stuff that people just kind of do all the time in government. I talk about it like the speed limit. You're on a freeway, the speed limit may be 65. Everyone's going 70. You don't then just pick out one person that's going 70 and you snag them. And everyone's just kind of going the same. What's being done here, in the natural flow of things. I think that the lawfare is pointing out people to, and by the way, let's also not be stupid here. Going after Comey is specifically lawfare, but I think it's justified lawfare. Okay. Because otherwise you just let him go. But at some point you need to stop this, and I think it's part of the mutually assured destruction path, which is you start to bring prosecutions for some of these people with things that need to be stopped. And if you don't stop it here, well, then they're going to retaliate. Yeah, okay. Tell you what, if they retaliate because you've lied before Congress, you think I'm going to cry about that? No, I'm not going to. The problem is when they retaliated and you're making up laws like they did with J6, trying to use, what was it? Like a Sarbanes-Oxley type of, provisions that were supposed to be used for Enron, and now you're using them for J6 enhanced, stuff. That's bullshit, and so I'm not for that. But we'll take a look at that. Thanks, Tyler. See you, boys. See you guys. Thank you, everybody else. I don't have all the same outros that I normally do, but I think I got one here in the books for us. This is an old school outro. See ya next week. Love y'all. Bye.
Okay, I'm leaving now.
But she's back.
And now.
Tyler, if you had any clout about you, if you had any knowledge of the real world of what happens, we walk into Tim Catt's studio, immediately there's 4 Jewish lawyers.
King of the Druids!
That's all we needed. A Jewish princess.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't expect the normies like Tyler to understand these kind of things. He's just a podunk lawyer somewhere in rural California. He's an idiot, really.
Takes a tough man to make a tender forecast, Nick. I guess that's me. Keep fucking that chicken.
This guy's, I wouldn't say he's full of shit, but I'd say he's stupid. Whatever. If you're in the comments, if you're in the chat now, I wouldn't pay attention to anything he says anyway. But
more or less, eat shit and die.
Don't ever come to Top Left. He will end you. Do you see what he just did to Tyler? Just fucking challenge this.
Tyler's done.
Top is a maniac.
He can't even reply right now because he's crippled.
He's got nothing to say. What are you
talking about? I didn't say that. Why don't you argue with something I said, you dumb bastard?